This is the oldest country in the world, San Marino, and it's been here in the Italian Apennines for almost the last 2 millennia. Well, to be exact, it's 1,724 years old. Numbers that large can be hard to imagine. So, for reference, England, and later the United Kingdom, is only 1,000 years old. Even Denmark was founded in the late 8th century. The origins of San Marino are surrounded in legend, so take its early history with enough salt to kill approximately 5.623 Norwegian owls. As the legend goes, an early Christian stonemason, Saint Marinus, fled to Italy from the island of Rab in modern Croatia due to religious persecution. It seems as though his travels hadn't been left behind in Croatia, as when he reached Italy, he was accused by a supposedly insane woman of being her husband. Guess things really haven't changed much in the last 1700 years. He fled to Monte Titano, which means Mount Titan in English, where he decided to be a hermit in holy contemplation. As rumors of just how hermity and holy contemplation-y he was grew, people started visiting him, which seems to defeat the whole point of being a hermit, but who am I to judge? Seeing this, the owner of Monte Titano decided to gift him the mountain. San Marino would grow from St. Marinus' monastery, in which he would die in 366, purportedly saying, "I leave you free from both men," meaning the emperor and the pope, which sounds too cool to be what he actually said. He probably said something more like, Now, how much of that is true is unknowable, but historians agree that at least some fragments are true. As for history we know for certain, we need to skip a bit ahead in history. Maybe not quite that far. Our story starts again in the 6th century AD, when a monk was described as living in Monte Titano. In the 1290s, the Montefeltro family demanded a tribute from a small country, but an abbot ruled in favor of San Marino and its autonomy. Yet, while San Marino is quite small today, it was even smaller then. It was just Monte Titano and the surrounding area. In 1320, the people living in nearby Buisgiano Castle decided to join the country. In 1463, the city-state defeated the Lord of Rimini, and as a reward, the Pope gifted the country the towns of Fiorentino, Montegardino, and Tervalle. Later that year, in San Marino's final territorial expansion, if you can really call expanding by a single town a territorial expansion, Gaetano decided to join the nation. Throughout the previous 1,000 years of history, while San Marino had been invaded, it had never been occupied or subservient to another country. All of that would change when the Duchy of Urbino was annexed by the Papal States, which is basically a country controlled by the Pope, and is the predecessor to modern-day Vatican City. Now that Urbino was part of the papacy, San Marino was completely surrounded by the Papal States. Afraid of being annexed by the stronger nation, San Marino sought papal protection. The Sammarinese fears, which sounds like a made-up term for people named Sam, were realized when the papal governor of Ravenna occupied the country on October 17, 1739. But, thankfully, less than 6 months later, Pope Clement XII freed San Marino on February 5th. Unfortunately, another threat to San Marino's autonomy would come less than 100 years later, in 1797, when Napoleon invaded Italy. San Marino was saved this time, not by Pope, but by one of its own leaders, Antonio Onofiri, who befriended Napoleon. Funnily enough, after the Napoleonic Wars, San Marino became one of the most peaceful places to be in all of Italy. Italy was trying to unify, and outside powers occupied sections of Italy, but San Marino kept to itself. Due to this, it became home to many Italian unification supporters, persecuted for their beliefs, such as Giuseppe Garibaldi. When Italy finally unified in 1861, the support of men like Garibaldi helped maintain the San Marino's independence. Yet, this Italian support would not last long into the 20th century. In 1915, Italy entered World War I against Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. Italy feared that San Marino was harboring Austrian spies, and tried to send a detachment of police to the city-state. When San Marino refused, Italy cut off their telephone lines, which seemed more like throwing a fit than a diplomatic response, but who am I to say? After the war, San Marino was swept up in the growing fascist movement in Italy. San Marino too will be led by a fascist party, the aptly named San Marinese Fascist Party, and were supported by the Italian fascists. But San Marino did not declare war on the Allied powers in World War II. In fact, fascist rule in San Marino lasted only as long as Italy's did. Yet, despite their neutrality, German forces invaded the city in September of 44, who were defeated by the Allies in the Battle of San Marino. San Marino was then occupied by the Allies until November, deciding that since fascism didn't work out so well for them, they decided to go the complete opposite way. San Marino elected the San Marinese Communist Party in the decade after the war. After World War II, the country remained quite peaceful and friendly with its large neighbor, and despite not being part of the European Union, San Marino uses the euro. Despite its small size, the San Marinese, I really love saying that word, are quite wealthy, with an average income of over $73,000. And I believe San Marino will probably remain the oldest country. Italy doesn't really have an incentive to invade them. Sure, it's wealthy, but the GDP is only $2 billion, and due to it basically being just a few mountains, there aren't any natural resources to speak of. It's crazy to think that one of the smallest and weakest nations in the world is actually the oldest.